Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Oxfam America Hunger Banquet. We're here today because more than 1 billion people live in poverty. 850 million people suffer from chronic hunger. Child dies from hunger or a preventable disease every 2.9 seconds. That means 30,000 children a day around the world. You may think hunger is about too many people around with too little food, but that's not the case. Our rich and bountiful planet produces enough food to feed every woman, man, and child on this earth. Hunger is about power. Its roots lie in inequalities in access to education and resources. The result is illiteracy, poverty, war, and the inability of families to grow or buy food of their own. Today you join Oxfam's fight against hunger. Oxfam believes that human rights are not contingent on our country of origin, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or the money we have or need. Rather, human rights are fundamental and non-negotiable. Over the more than 35 years of Oxfam America's work, millions of dollars have been raised to support human rights and to end poverty. Millions of people have participated in Oxfam America banquets like this, or skipped meals to acknowledge the plight of world hunger. While the proportion of the world's population living in hunger has decreased, hunger endures for millions of people. In 46 countries, people are poorer today than they were 20 years ago. Your presence here today shows that you're concerned, you want to learn more, and you want to make a difference. Since 1970, Oxfam America has been making a difference. We continue to promote change from the bottom up, through hundreds of grassroots organizations around the world. Oxfam doesn't impose solutions. They believe that people have the power, the right, and the understanding to create solutions for their own communities. Oxfam provides financial and moral support and networking assistance to enable communities to control their own futures. Altogether, Oxfam America supports some 236 partners in more than 26 countries. While Oxfam is committed to our community-based work, they've found that there are also larger barriers that keep people from thriving. Our community's work forms the basis for our policy and advocacy work, through which we challenge the national and international laws and policies that reinforce poverty. We also educate the U.S. public on hunger and poverty issues, which is what the Oxfam America Hunger Banquet is all about. This banquet is a metaphor for how food and other resources are inequitably distributed around the world. As such, an Oxfam America Hunger Banquet can only touch upon the issues we cannot create, but we cannot create the many complex ways poverty manifests itself. We will not have the time to go into all the problems associated with lack of access to healthcare, education, employment opportunities, and the realities of the day-to-day struggle for survival. The only thing I would like you to remember is this: everyone on earth has the same basic needs. It's only our circumstances, where we live, and the culture we were born in that differ. Some are born into relative prosperity and security. We drew a lot of granted. Look around, and you can see that equality and balance do not exist in this room. Notice, not one section of this room represents a single country, while the United States, where we live in, is one of the wealthiest countries on earth, and almost 36 million Americans live in poverty. Stark inequalities prevail all over the world. Now, I would like to introduce you to 3 segments of this world. Please remember, it's too easy to measure this world purely in economic terms. It's really about the person's ability to achieve a sense of security and their accesses to resources. If you're sitting here You're representing the 15% of the world's population with a per capita income of $9,076 or more. You're fortunate enough to be able to afford a nutritious daily diet. Since many of you exceed your daily requirements of calories, you're likely to face health problems such as heart disease and possibly diabetes. But most of you don't need to worry about getting health care. You have access to the best medical care in the world. It's a given that your children will attend school, and the only uncertainty is how many years they will study after high school. Access to credit, you turn down more offers than you can count. You and your family live in a comfortable and secure home. You own at least one car and probably 2 televisions. When you take your annual 2-week vacation, you don't worry about your job disappearing in your absence. You have access to virtually everything you need and the security to enjoy it. If you're sitting over here, you represent roughly 25% of the world's population. You earn between $912 and $9,075 a year. The level of access and security you enjoy vary greatly. You live on the edge. For many, it would take losing only one harvest or drought or a serious illness to throw you into poverty. You probably own no land and may work as a day laborer, a job that pays a paltry amount, but it's better than nothing. Your small income allows for some use of electricity and a few years of schooling for your children, especially if they're boys. Alternatively, you may have left your family to go to work in the city. You hope that the money you earn from your less than minimum wage job as domestic help of a sweatshop worker will eventually allow you to move back home and make a better life for your family. And if you're sitting on the floor, you represent the majority of the world's population, roughly 60%. Your average income is less than $911 a year, and that's about $2.50 a day, although many of you earn much less than that. Every single day is a struggle to meet your family's basic needs. Finding food, water, and shelter can consume your entire day. For many of you women, it would not be uncommon for you to have to walk 5 to 10 miles every day just to get water. Spend several months, maybe hours at a time working in the fields, and of course taking care of your children on top of that. Many of you are frequently hungry. It's quite likely that you don't get the minimum number of calories your hard-working life requires. Many of you are homeless or living in structures that are so flimsy that a hard rain or a string of winds could cause a major catastrophe. Even though education is the single most powerful weapon against poverty, school is a luxury few of your children will ever experience. Most girls don't even bother to dream about it. Adequate health care is out of the question for many of you in this group. For most of you, early death is all too familiar, with many mothers expecting to lose 1 or 2 children before they turn 5. If you're lucky enough to work, you probably a tenant farmer who must give your landowner 75% of your profit, or you may get occasional work as a day laborer in a large plantation growing bananas, sugar, or coffee for export. You reap very few benefits from these crops. You'd prefer to grow food for your children so that they could eat. Now I have some news that will affect several of you. As we've said, no one can choose the circumstances into which they are born. Some people have the good fortune to change their life for the better, but for most of the circumstances of life are determined by factors outside of their control. I have 4 people from the low-income group. Please stand up. Okay. These 4 people live in the border region of Mexico. Another Maquiladora, an industrial plant owned by an American firm, which finds it's cheaper to produce their goods in Mexico than ship the product back to the U.S. They just opened their doors in the town and need a few thousand workers for the factory floor. Once hired, you'll be paid a few dollars a day and you anticipate your life becoming much more secure. You'll be able to feed your family on a regular basis and maybe build yourself a small house out of scrap materials on the edge of a shanty town. I invite you now to take place in the middle income group. But before you go, could I have 4 people from the middle income group please stand up? Okay. These 4 people already work in a Maquiladora in the next town over. You've been working there for many years and have finally gotten angry about the dangerous working conditions, mistreatment by employees, and low wages. Now you refuse to work until changes are made. There are no unions for the Maquiladora workers. Union leaders were given stakes in many of the companies in order to keep the unions out of the plants. And so you have been fired. You're now forced to look for another equally low-paying job with poor working conditions. You've been living week to week and have no savings and nothing to live on until you hopefully find another job. I invite you to take the seats of those 4 people from the low-income group who managed to find jobs in the next town over. We have 1 person from the high-income group. You are a middle manager at a large US-based coffee company. When the world market price of coffee reaches record lows in 2001, your company was paying less for coffee than ever before. But it did not lower the prices it charged you as consumers. When prices rose, your company was quick to pass on the cost to consumers, and your company's profits continue to escalate. Congratulations. Maybe you'll take a nice Caribbean vacation. While you're deciding on how to spend your bonus, please remain standing while I introduce 2 people you would ordinarily not get to meet. Could I have 1 person in the middle income group? This man's name is Joseph McComo. You've once again been laid off from your job picking coffee beans, which allowed you to provide the basics for your family in Kenya. Your employer was driven deep into debt in 2001 when the price of coffee hit a 330-year low, and because he's still struggling to recover, he can't afford to hire you for permanent work and pay you a stable wage. Please move to the low-income group. Could I have 1 female from the low-income group, please? Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Lillian Kenyatta. She lives in the same village as Joseph, and she ekes out a living selling maize and other vegetables from her garden at a local market. Because Joseph and many of your other customers have been unable to find steady work at the coffee plantation, they're buying less from you, and you can't afford enough corn for your family. You'll receive only half the portions of the meal a day, and you cannot afford more than that. Sorry. As you see, this is just a small slice of life that plays out each day around the globe. Now we invite you all to eat. We're going to, low-income group, your meal served in front of you. You can help yourselves to what you guys will be eating tonight. The middle-income group, you guys will be going up to the buffet. You guys can help yourself. You don't get the luxury of a waiter or anything like that. But please help yourself to the buffet. As you can see, those of you in the high-income group will be served nutritious meals, salad, pasta, and a main course. The ones of you in the middle-income group will be served chicken and rice, a decent meal for a regular family. And those of you in the low-income group seated on the floor will be served bread and water. As you can see, these three meals are clearly different, and depending on what you can afford, the better you are eating. While you eat, please enjoy this slideshow I put together with a couple of pictures and videos I pulled off of Google, and a little backstory. Back my junior year, going into my junior year of college, I spent about 2 weeks down in Haiti, helping out building houses and worked at a medical clinic. And it's one of those things where I did this event the year before that, you talk about it, and you get to see pictures on Google, and it's really tough, but once you actually experience it, it's something that, it's almost hard to put in words. I included a few pictures at the end of the slideshow of my experience, but if you have any questions afterwards, I'd be more than happy to answer.